The glitz and glamour of Hollywood often hide a far more complicated reality, one where silence isn't peace, and behind every camera-ready smile a storm might be brewing. And now that storm has erupted. For weeks, Hollywood insiders, legal analysts, and fans alike have speculated about the unraveling legal web surrounding Blake Lively, America's long-adored actress and fashion icon. Known for her elegance, poise, and largely controversy-free career, Blake has carefully cultivated a reputation that stood firm against the often brutal winds of public opinion. But lately, that image has been shaking under the weight of secrets, leaks, subpoenas, and a trail of questions no one seemed willing to answer until now. Enter Bryan Freedman, the no-nonsense, battle-hardened Hollywood attorney, with a reputation for stepping into legal fires and walking out with the truth. When Freedman speaks, people listen, and when he finally broke his silence on Blake Lively's situation, he didn't just speak, he sent shockwaves that reverberated through both Hollywood and the wider public. His words didn't scream, they didn't accuse, but they cut deep. Because in this world, it's not always about what's said, it's about what's implied. For those unfamiliar with the deeper layers of the ongoing controversy, it all began when Lively's name became attached to a growing dispute involving legal actions aimed at social media creators. Questions about behind-the-scenes behavior during the filming of It Ends With Us and alleged control issues within her own team. The public saw only glimpses, a subpoena here, a social media backlash there. But insiders whispered about a larger, more troubling picture, one that pointed to something more than legal technicalities, something personal, strategic, and unsettling. Despite all the speculation, neither Blake nor her team offered much clarity. Statements were vague, social media stayed polished, and PR teams deflected tough questions. But the silence started feeling too heavy, as if it wasn't just a pause but a shield protecting something far more complex than what the headlines were saying. And that's where Bryan Freedman stepped in. Known for representing top-tier celebrities in high-stakes legal disputes, Freedman doesn't speak lightly, he doesn't engage in sensationalism. But when he does speak, his words are surgical, intentional, pointed, and built to withstand scrutiny. So when he decided to break the silence on Blake Lively's unfolding crisis, it wasn't just a media update, it was a shift in the entire conversation. In his calmly delivered yet deeply revealing statement, Freedman acknowledged that the narrative being told to the public had key internal inconsistencies. That's legal code for something's not adding up. He described how decisions were made behind closed doors that may not have been advised or endorsed by the full legal team. He spoke of improvisation masquerading as strategy. And perhaps most tellingly, he expressed concern, not outrage, not denial, but concern over the direction things had taken. He didn't name names, he didn't assign blame, but his message was clear. This wasn't just a media misunderstanding. This was something bigger, something involving trust, decisions made in haste, and possibly even betrayals behind the curtain. A quiet but potent call-out that painted a picture of a legal team divided, or worse, kept in the dark. But what exactly does this mean for Blake Lively? For years, Blake has been celebrated not only for her acting, but for the control she exerts over her personal brand. From the red carpet to her social media presence, she's been viewed as composed, meticulous, and calculated in the best sense. But when an artist leans too far into control, especially in collaborative, high-stakes environments, it can raise tensions. And as Freedman's comments suggest, control without accountability can lead to consequences. Behind the scenes of It Ends With Us, rumors were already swirling about creative disputes, tension with co-stars, and an uncharacteristically tight grip on production decisions. Many assumed it was just passion. Others began to wonder if there was something more. When the legal matters surfaced, specifically subpoenas reportedly tied to content creators discussing the production, people began connecting dots. The question snowballed: was this about protecting reputation? Was someone trying to silence criticism, or was this part of a larger misstep? Freedman's statement didn't answer all those questions, but it validated the idea that they were worth asking. And let's talk about the broader implications here. In an age where transparency is everything, where one misstep can ignite a firestorm on social media, and where fans demand not just entertainment but ethics from their celebrities, the stakes are higher than ever. Lively's silence had worked until it didn't. Now her brand is under pressure. Not necessarily because of any crime or scandal, but because of uncertainty, because of shadows, and because her once unshakable image has started to crack. In Hollywood, public perception is as powerful as any courtroom verdict. And in this moment, the perception is shifting, not definitively, not catastrophically, but enough to cause unease, enough to prompt people to look again, to rethink, to question the perfect narrative that had followed Lively for so long. As Bryan Freedman's words continue to be dissected by legal analysts, fans And media outlets alike, one thing is abundantly clear: something happened. Something serious enough for a top lawyer to go on the record. Something that may have been avoidable. And something that will inevitably define the next chapter of Blake Lively's career. Whether she likes it or not, this isn't just a legal story, it's a cautionary tale about power, about silence, and about what happens when the people who were supposed to have your back don't. So now the question remains, not just for Freedman, not just for Lively, but for all of Hollywood. Watching from the sidelines, when the silence is finally broken, can trust be rebuilt? Because in the end, secrets rarely stay buried, and in Hollywood they don't just come out, they explode. The silence has been deafening. For weeks the entertainment world has been buzzing with whispers, murmurs, and questions about what really happened behind the scenes in Blake Lively's escalating legal battle. Until now, no one from her inner circle or legal camp had truly come forward to address the swirling chaos until Bryan Freedman, the high-powered Hollywood attorney, known for representing some of the biggest names in show business, finally stepped up. And when he did, he didn't just clarify the situation, he sent shockwaves across the industry. Freedman, who is no stranger to high-stakes litigation and media scrutiny, has officially broken his silence on the Blake Lively controversies that have entangled her in public criticism, private conflicts, and professional uncertainties. The situation had been simmering for a while, ever since Lively's name became tied to legal subpoenas involving content creators, leaked communications, and production drama related to her recent projects. But now, with Freedman's detailed statement and subtle but strategic revelations, the veil has been lifted, and what lies beneath has everyone talking. In a carefully measured response that avoided inflammatory language but didn't shy away from direct truths, Freedman revealed that key elements of Lively's current legal situation weren't simply unfortunate misunderstandings. According to him, a pattern had emerged, one that raised questions not only about legal processes, but about personal integrity and professional conduct. Though Freedman didn't use words like betrayal or cover up, his tone spoke volumes. And fans, followers, and industry insiders have been reading between the lines ever since. One of the most startling points in Freedman's statement was his reference to internal inconsistencies between what had been publicly claimed by Lively's team and what was actually happening behind the scenes. He alluded to decisions being made without consulting key legal advisors, documents being circulated without context, and potential risks being taken that were neither necessary nor legally sound. For a lawyer of his stature to say that, it was in itself a statement of concern. Before Freedman's comments went public, rumors had already begun to swirl that something wasn't quite right in Blake Lively's legal approach. What had started as a relatively small dispute over creative control, casting disagreements, and script revisions quickly expanded into a complex situation involving legal subpoenas, claims of misinformation, and a public relations strategy that seemed reactive rather than proactive. Sources close to the production of It Ends With Us and other Lively associated projects have quietly suggested that the pressure behind the scenes had been building for some time. Certain crew members and consultants had expressed confusion over unclear directions, last-minute decisions, and shifting priorities. But most of them stayed quiet until a few bold voices online began piecing together what appeared to be a broader narrative. A narrative not just about legal filings, but about trust. And that's where Freedman's words gained even more weight. By speaking now, he wasn't just clarifying legal minutiae. He was providing context to a larger issue: how internal disagreements and selective transparency may have fueled a series of avoidable setbacks. He stopped short of placing direct blame, but his message implied that somewhere along the way, the situation had gone off course and it hadn't been corrected in time. In one particularly pointed remark, Freedman noted there is a difference between strategy and improvisation. One must never be confused for the other in matters of law. That line has been widely interpreted as a subtle critique of how certain decisions may have been made without the full backing of a cohesive legal plan. Was he referring to Blake herself or others around her? The answer remains elusive, but the implication is clear: mistakes were made and they're now coming to light. As soon as Freedman's remarks went public, Hollywood began reacting. Industry insiders, journalists, and even legal analysts started dissecting every sentence of his carefully crafted statement. The reactions were mixed, but nearly all agreed on one thing: his choice to speak now and in such a clear yet diplomatic tone signaled that more was going on than the public had been told. Several entertainment law experts weighed in during interviews and social media commentary. One legal commentator stated, "When someone like Bryan Freedman speaks, it's not just a press move. It's a signal he's putting boundaries around the narrative and possibly protecting himself from being dragged into decisions he didn't endorse." That interpretation aligns with the idea that Lively's legal path may have been shaped by multiple hands, some experienced, others perhaps less so. Meanwhile, those in Hollywood circles began revisiting some of Lively's past professional relationships, especially ones that had reportedly soured in recent years. Some directors and collaborators had previously praised her professionalism, but also mentioned how intense and personally invested she could become in her projects. Could that intensity have led to overreach? Did creative passion become legal vulnerability? Adding to the speculation was the fact that some key figures close to Lively had gone noticeably quiet during the height of the controversy, not just on social media but in interviews, press releases, and public statements. That silence now appears calculated. Perhaps they were waiting, like Freedman, for the right moment to speak. Or perhaps they were distancing themselves as things got more complicated. There was also the broader question: what role did public image play in how this was all handled? Lively, long admired for her poised persona and stylish branding, had never been a tabloid regular or known for controversy. That made the entire situation feel even more shocking. Her fans were confused, torn between supporting someone they admired and grappling with the emerging complexities. With Freedman now officially on the record, the spotlight shifts again, this time to what happens next. Will more legal responses follow? Will Lively address the situation publicly? And perhaps most importantly, will her legal and PR strategy change as a result of this new information? Insiders speculate that Freedman's comments could mark a turning point. By asserting a calm but clear boundary around what happened and what should have happened, he may be pushing for a reset, a new strategy perhaps built not on reaction but on reflection. That could include more direct public communication from Lively, a shift in how her legal matters are handled, or even changes in her representation. There's also the question of future collaborations. Will studios and producers be more cautious in involving her in high-stakes productions? Or will this moment pass, becoming just another challenging chapter in an otherwise celebrated career that largely depends on what steps are taken next and how transparent those steps are? In the end, Freedman's choice to speak wasn't just a legal update. It was a message to the public, the media, and perhaps to Lively herself. A message that accountability matters, that silence can be dangerous, and that sometimes the truth doesn't need to be shouted to be heard. Bryan Freedman's statement didn't come with fireworks or courtroom drama, but in its own quiet way it hit harder than many public scandals. It reminded the entertainment world that reputations are built not just in red carpet moments, but in the boardrooms, behind the scripts, and in the decisions no one sees until they fall apart. Blake Lively may still have time to course correct. Her career, talent, and charisma are undeniable. But Freedman's words serve as a warning: even stars can lose their way, and even silence can scream betrayal if left unchecked. Whether this moment becomes a turning point or a lasting shadow remains to be seen. One thing is certain: the story isn't over yet.